Good evening and welcome back to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. We are reconvening at 9:09. We just had a fairly lengthy in-camera session, which we have to do at various times. And we discussed a lot of business, a lot of items, a lot of information we received. And arising from the in-camera session, we do have a couple of motions. One is happening right away. Councilor Montgomery.
Thank you. I will move that council adopt an amendment to the 2025 operating budget, which would approve the following strategic objectives and emergent items in the amount of $325,000 with funds coming from the Financial Stability Reserve. And that includes $220,000 for growth opportunities discussed during the confidential matter on the February 19th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda, with the matter remaining confidential until the second quarter of 2025. $50,000 for legal services regarding East Calgary Regional Waterline Connection and construction request items, $25,000 for a Shop Local campaign, and $30,000 for legal services in relation to development permit D24-114, and that council approves a transfer of $325,000 to the 2025 operating budget operating reserves from the Financial Stability Reserve.
Thank you for the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Just a gratitude to our economic development officer, who's just a visionary, and she's constantly thinking of really creative ways to work with our small businesses. And I'm just so pleased. And that, and I'm specifically referring to the Shop Local campaign.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion or comments? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no public. Councillor Peterson?
Oh, no, I'm just waiting for the next motion. There's another motion.
There is one coming at 9.1.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I have it on here. Yeah.
Oh, there is one other?
This one.
Councillor Peterson.
Is it this one? Like this is the one that I'm looking at? To authorize the letter? Yeah. Yes. Your Worship, I would move that Council direct administration to authorize the letter discussed during the closed meeting, item 3.2 on the February 19th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda, and that this item remain confidential under FOIP sections 23.1 subsection A, 24.1 subsection A, 24.1 subsection BI, and 27 subsection 1A.
Thank you for the motion. And now that we have a motion on the floor, is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Peterson, are you thinking to speak to it? Okay. No discussion or comments? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Sorry, did you vote for that? Okay. I didn't see your hand. Thank you. We move now to item 4, public hearing. We have no public hearing tonight. Public comments. Are there any public comments tonight on any of the items on the agenda? Seeing and hearing none. We have no delegations tonight. We move now to item 7, consent agenda. Are there any of the 2 items on the consent agenda that council would like to see removed and discussed individually? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion from Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that council adopt the recommendations of the following agenda reports by an omnibus motion: 8.1 regular council meeting minutes for February 5th, 2025, and 11.2.1 Community Futures Wild Rose meeting minutes for January 9th, 2025.
Thank you. You've all heard that speed version of the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. I could never do that. Councillor Langmaid, good job. We move now to item 9, business. This is where I got confused. Mark, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Tonight I'm here to speak about a letter of support for a community peace officer operational command. As indicated in my report, on February 14th, at the end of the day, we received a letter from Minister Ellis' office requesting urgent action to redeploy operational control of our community peace officers to the local law enforcement jurisdiction. In our case, it'd be the Strathmore RCMP Detachment and Staff Sergeant Will Gosh. As the letter indicates, this is to support both federal and provincial efforts to combat illegal fentanyl trafficking and consumption. So my report pretty much emphasizes that really this is to support both the province and federal efforts in this matter. And if there's any questions of council, please, I'll be willing to answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark or comments? Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Sorry if this shows my ignorance. Where in the agenda package is this one? So when did this one get emailed? It's 33? Did you say this is on page 33?
I think that one's the
No,
policing committee.
No. Excuse me.
Jonathan, did you want to?
Thank you, Your Worship. An email was sent this afternoon to council with an RFD and a copy of this letter. And then council did amend the agenda.
So the one I
the
have
start.
is sent at 6:30. Okay. At 4:57 PM. So I haven't had a chance to read this. This was sent like 15 minutes before I left the house. So has everybody else read this? Yeah, at 4:57. Could you give a brief overview of what this is?
Through the chair, yes, Councillor Wiley, I'll do my best. I don't have the letter specifically in front of me.
And Mark, I can help because I was in on a phone meeting yesterday with the minister and various other mayors, so I can support you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The letter states that the province is looking to support, and as I indicated in my report, support federal and provincial efforts to for the illegal fentanyl trafficking and consumption within a community. And as such, they're trying to rally municipalities to cede operational command of community peace officers, or CPOs in this case, to the local law jurisdiction. And like as indicated, for us, that would be the local RCMP Detachment and Staff Sergeant Will Gosh. Excuse me. The specific duties for these individuals has yet to be determined. This is something that's just came down, like I said, late on Friday, the 14th. And so we ourselves have had little time to meet the minister's deadline, which is today, to I guess, show our support of this initiative. Perhaps Mayor Fuel can elaborate on anything else that was discussed at that meeting, if possible, Your Worship.
Thank you. This initiative has come very quickly from the Minister Mike Ellis. It originates with the UCP. They have the concept of bylaw officers being used to supplement and support RCMP in communities. There is a great concern from the provincial government concerning fentanyl trafficking, border security. So this is planned to be a temporary initiative, and it's something that the Mid-Sized Cities Mayor's Caucus has also supported, and a letter has been sent out today. Timing is incredibly quick. We didn't hear about this coming until Friday, February 14th, and then there was an opportunity for people to Zoom, for mayors to Zoom, and then I joined via audio. So yeah, there were a lot of questions asked, and some of the questions dealt with the timing, but this is a very high priority, time-sensitive one that the UCP feels is incredibly important. Councillor Montgomery.
I have a motion ready.
Okay.
So I will move that council authorize Mayor Fuel to sign the letter of support regarding Community Peace Officer Operational Command as presented in Attachment 1. And I'll just say that I've never seen the government act so quickly in my entire life. And kudos to the staff for reacting to this hot potato so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wegener.
Yeah, again, it does seem very fast from February 14th, Friday till now. I did read this this afternoon, or when it came in, just briefly though, so I didn't probably grasp the whole concept of it. But I guess one of the things that I do have a concern about is, I mean, we're starting to talking about the efforts to combat fentanyl and that, using our community protective officers. What type of, does that put them at any additional risk?
CAO Scobel?
Perhaps I can answer this one. Both the mayor and I were on the call yesterday with the deputy premier and pretty much every mayor of any large community in Alberta. No, they're very conscientious that this is not about putting the CPOs at increased harm. What it is it's to do some things that the RCMP might normally do and to free the RCMP up more to focus on the fentanyl. So our CPOs are not getting necessarily they're not getting into criminal investigations or activation, activities or stakeouts or anything like that. It's to, they'll report into the officer in command who will say that, you know what, I need you to go here and do this, this, and this today so that RCMP members X, Y, and Z can do what they need to do in terms of attacking fentanyl issues.
Okay, so I guess, again, maybe this goes to my not knowing all that well, but again, if they're going to be doing other tasks that the RCMP are doing, so the RCMP can concentrate on the illegal fentanyl trade, then my question still remains: does that put them at more risk if they're doing RCMP jobs while the RCMP is battling fentanyl?
Yeah, so maybe some clarification. So the CPOs are meant to take on some of the civil and social disorder issues that the RCMP might normally deal with, and then the RCMP will focus their efforts on fentanyl. So an example would be if there's a homeless person that needs attending to, quite often the RCMP does that now. So instead, our CPOs may be doing that so that the RCMP remain focused on the fentanyl issue.
Thank you for that, CAO Scobel. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I certainly recognize the societal impact that fentanyl has had, not only in Alberta, but across the country, and can support increased efforts to try and curb that. I'm not sure that I'm at a point where I'm ready to support a letter of support for this. I recognize that we likely have little, if no, opportunity to not do this. So I'm not speaking against the actual reassignment, but it does leave a hole in our community, because while these community protection officers are responding to RCMP calls that they would normally be responding to, they're not responding to their normal duties. It diminishes their ability to maintain their normal duties. And on top of that, following this item on the agenda, we'll be discussing the Municipal Policing Committee bylaw, which was also a directive of our provincial government, which the intention of that is to give a public committee the ability to have input on the priorities of our RCMP and our community protection officers, our municipal enforcement team, and this just completely bypasses that committee and sets a priority for them that seems to not fit with the mandate of what we were discussing in the Municipal Policing Committee. I wish they would have had an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that they wouldn't come to the same conclusion, but if we're going to have a committee that's intended to set priorities for policing in our community, this seems to certainly bypass that. So while I recognize that this is something that needs to be done, I don't think that I could feel comfortable supporting a letter of support for this at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. Kevin? CAO Scobel.
Just some additional, I guess, context to help Councillor Langmaid here. I'm not going to touch the policing committee or that's all provincial set in it. But my understanding is that, definitely we would be concerned about our current service levels being impacted for the CPOs. But There is a compensation model underway that the federal government is working on. So it's meant to, the way it was framed is they can't train all the officers they need in a very short time frame here. So the idea is to use existing resources that are trained, in this case, our CPOs. So there's a federal funding that is expected to be available. So, instead of working an 8-hour shift, the CPOs may be working a 12-hour shift, and the government will be picking up the overtime for that. It won't be paid for. So we should, still be able to maintain most of our service level, but support this initiative of the provincial government, and it'll be covered by compensation.
Do we have the support of our CPOs to increase their shift by that amount? Because that's a pretty significant increase to their working hours.
So yes, we've had some conversations with them, but I would also suggest that's a personnel matter in the administration. So
Certainly, that's a personnel matter. I'm just looking from a level of service perspective. If they're not ready, then we'd have to consider either hiring more with that funding from the federal government, which is going to take time and resources to hire and train additional individuals. My feelings on the matter still stand, but thank you. I appreciate the additional information.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. Deputy Mayor Wiley, and then Councillor Peterson, followed by Mitzner.
So it sounds to me like if this federal grant were to come in, then that would alleviate some of the current missing levels of service, but then what would be the timeline on that?
it's in the federal government, but the province assured us they're working to expedite that as quickly as possible.
And then, I'm sure you can't answer this, but it's certainly a concern I have sending a letter is, what does temporary mean?
That was a question that was asked frequently yesterday and remains to be determined at this point. So.
Temporary, like the income tax.
It's only 1936.
Yeah, so is it, I would be a lot more supportive of this letter if it said something in here about, here in almost the second last paragraph, it's like, we trust these temporary measures will support the provincial and federal government associated, blah, blah, blah. As long as temporary, I mean, I would like to see some kind of restriction on this. I don't love the province coming in and putting that kind of pressure on us in such a short amount of time without any definition of the vocabulary they're using.
Yeah, like I said, it was one of the probably the. I should almost let the mayor speak to this because it was all mayors, but it was probably the most frequently asked question. I guess my suggestion would be to leave it as is. I mean, council can always at some point in the future withdraw operational control if you wished as well. So if you feel that the temporary period has gone too long now or whatever.
So one last question, what if we didn't support this?
I think there's a general philosophy or feeling to demonstrate that I heard the expression Team Alberta a few times in yesterday's meeting, to demonstrate that we're all united to protect and secure our borders better. That's the impression I got. We want to be a
if
part
it's
of
Team
the
Alberta
solution.
and they're coming down to the municipality, I don't feel like part of a team. I don't feel like I was communicated to at all about this.
I understand. I totally understand. And this did not come out till Friday
Yeah,
sometime.
no, sir, let me be very clear. I'm not at least disappointed in our administration on this. I think, given the incredibly short timeline, that the report that I have in front of me, and now I've had a chance to read it, is clear with all the information that it sounds like you guys have is laid out. The letter is great. It's exactly, I think, what the province is asking for, because I can see the ministerial directive right here. I'm just not sure if I want to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Peterson and then Councillor Mitzner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we all know, the reasoning for this, and I think you've been really clear. And I am prepared to support this, and I think that if there's something good that will come out of it, it's, new understandings about elevated cooperation between our constabulary. They work really well together now. I think they can find other ways to even work together better, so I'm going to look at that as being really hopeful. And I also think that one of the other reasons I'm prepared to support the motion on the advice and the support of the mayors of our mid-sized Alberta cities is that there is this temporary clause, and we do have capacity to act on it later, but we're also right on the verge of having a municipal policing committee where this council will have representation, and I have a lot of hopes that that will also work to fill this out. And finally, I will say that one of the things I've been very supportive of this government and their record on addressing problems with addictions. And so for that reason, I am prepared to support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Mitzner, and then back to Councillor Langmaid.
I will be supporting this. I believe this is a task force, but I don't believe it's a request. I think the provincial government is reaching out to all of Alberta. I don't think it's up to us to say that we do not want to participate. Thank you.
Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, Worship. I just, a question of clarification. If I do choose not to support the letter tonight, is that indicating to administration an opposition to reassigning those resources to the RCMP? Because that's not my intention. My intention is to comply with the request of the government. My opposition is in sending a letter saying we think it's a great idea. If that makes sense. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of clear, and that I'm in my vote, I'm not accidentally voting for something that I didn't intend.
Through the chair, Councilor Langmaid, ultimately the motion in front of you is to authorize the mayor to sign the attached letter. Ultimately, that is a letter that if council wishes us to make some revisions on that, again, maybe my colleagues in Ledge Services will correct me when I misspeak here. But ultimately, the intention of the letter is to demonstrate our support of this initiative if should council wish to adopt that and approve that letter.
Right. So whether or not we adopt the letter tonight, we are moving forward with combining our CPOs with the RCMP, correct?
Through the chair, Councilor Langmaid, we would not be proceeding with that direction unless council authorizes us to do that. Ultimately, these individuals are employees of the town, which makes the operational command slightly blurred. However, ultimately, is we feel, as CEO Scoble indicated and Mayor Fuel, that this is to overall support the province and the federal efforts in terms of that sort of thing. So ultimately, it's a recommendation to council, but so if you wish to proceed in a different direction, that's ultimately your choice.
CAO Scoble, are you under the impression that everything that was discussed in yesterday's meeting is for public consumption?
I'm not sure about that.
Then I would ask for a motion to go in camera for just a few minutes. Councillor Langmaid? I'll be able to give you more information. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to go in camera at 9:32. All in favor? And to the public at home,